it made him anxious, unsure of his own footing. The nets dangled above us. Carl's hand hovered on the winch. Carl waited, and then added, "It looks like it'll be rough, Skipper. What do you reckon?" He might as well have been an alpha dog, a wolf, rolling over to show his belly. But it didn't work. When Mick shook his head and said, "We can't afford to miss a catch," Carl nodded and said, "Okay." It was only after the skipper scrambled back to the wheelhouse that Carl said, "He doesn't know anything about what it's like out here. He couldn't read the Gulf if it was printed on a poster in front of his stupid face." The booms on the Ocean Thief stretched out on either side of the boat, wide arms, forming a crucifix across the moving palette of the sea. On a good day, these trawling booms glinted with tropical heat, inhabited by temporary colonies of seabirds, terns with punk hairstyles, gulls spreading their white wings, sometimes a seahawk. On those days, they had something soothing, domestic about them. A marine hills hoist, an aquatic, static windmill. But not that day. Not that night. My bare feet curved, my toes gripping the narrow width of the bar, holding me unsteadily as the boat lurched. Following Carl's instructions, I'd hooked my arms over the narrow band that formed a sort of rail above the boom. Mouth dry, terror at the back of my throat, I leaned forwards, clutching a dolphin torch in one hand, the beam rising and falling as the wooden boards below me slapped up and down with the slide of the ocean. Waves smacked against the boards with the force of a punch. The metal cut into the softness of my armpits. Framed by the black of the water snapping at his feet, Carl's face flashed in and out of the light, his hand reaching up to mine. The belt of tools at my waist dug into me, the handle of something, a spanner, a wrench, stabbing into the flesh at my hip, a relief from the pressure of the thin rail across my belly. Carl shouted up at me, but the storm whipped his words away. Ack, ussa, ick, uck. It was all noise, a wash and a roar of noise. Carl's snippets, half words that disappeared into the storm, the punch roar of the waves, Davy on deck calling, "Sorry, sorry, sorry," the skipper behind him, fist shaking, shouting, the shriek of dolphins trailing the fishing boat, my own bloody heart, the thudding of it. We'd heard the first crack of thunder earlier, but we put the nets out anyway. We'd held to the deck as the six-berth fishing trawler slid up and down relentless waves, and, when the rain started pummeling us, huddled in the galley. It was the shrieking of the dolphins that called us back out on deck, pods of them trailing the boat, the strange squeal louder than the storm. Carl and I leaned out on the gunwale then, squinting into the rain until we could see. The boards that held the nets steady had broken. We couldn't get the nets up without mending the boards. And if we couldn't pull up, with unstable nets heaving in a thrashing sea, we were unbalanced, likely to be forced over or under, to become one more weekend news story of boats lost in the Gulf. Carl raised his face again as another wave hit. "The screw, Ivor, need mash." Folding myself in two, I leaned further down, a screwdriver dangling from my hand. Carl reached up, but not close enough. My foot lifted off the boom while my arms gripped tighter. On the deck behind me, Davy shouted a warning. The boom lifted, then fell, and the board smashed towards me. The torch dropped from my hand just as another wall of water surged, pounding into my face, my eyes, until I was blinded, only feeling the turn of metal beneath me. I grabbed at something near, while the wall of the world, dark, impenetrable, came closer. Terns screeched, counterpointing the shrieking of the dolphins and the rattling inside my skull, a bass reverberation. Carl's voice sounded below me, a call, a warning, and then there was the clang of the chains and a sudden smack to my face. The thickness of blood then, and soundless, dense, black.